Hello, everybody. Thank you again for joining our online Metaverse Summit Roadshow. It is a series of interviews, panels, workshops online with different Metaverse experts, entrepreneurs, projects, startups, and more and more. So today we are happy to have Nicolas, who is the founder of MetaGameHub DAO and also a DAC. Could you tell us more about yourself first, and then about those two different organizations or entities? How can we call it?
Absolutely. First of all, thanks so much for the invite. Pleasure to be here. I think it's great that you guys already before the upcoming Metaverse conference already kind of pushed the education on this topic. It's always great. So I haven't really seen this much from other conferences. So great job on that regard. Quickly about myself. I've been in the crypto space for quite some time, right? Started first with the investing side and trading side, like most people, I guess. And then when you kind of start having some skin in the game, you you then kind of really take the deep dive into the technical, infrastructure behind it. Then I, for instance, worked as a consultant a bit in the industry, supporting initially more corporate entities on their endeavors, right? Back then, it was also kind of the private blockchain hype a bit, and I helped a bit here and there with migrating trade finance branches within entities, for instance, of a German machine producer to the Corda chain. But honestly, it didn't make me happy in that sense, since to me, really what got me into the crypto economy was really like to push decentralization and creating equal opportunities, for everyone in this, globalized economy and world. And therefore, I then, together with a couple of others, we founded Amazing Blocks, which is focusing on digital legal entities, where I really would say I took a regulatory deep dive into the crypto environment, right? Where basically we focused on, let's say, these digital legal entities for individuals as well as corporations. A lot of meetings with lawyers. This was again something that is of course interesting, and it helped me a lot, let's say, understand the space from different angles, which then though led me also to think, okay, there were so many players and parties that wanted to, let's say, just integrate with their, let's say, CeFi goggles, real world assets into the crypto economy, which did though, I mean, there's a lot of friction, and people that are familiar with this, let's say, more security token space, they know what I'm talking about. It's not as easy as people think. And then the metaverse kind of started becoming more and more a thing. And that was like a bit over a year ago when, together with a couple of others, we founded MetaGameHub DAO, which in a nutshell is basically focusing on the convergence of the metaverse with DeFi and data. But to be a bit more concrete, I would say that MetaGameHub DAO has two angles, right? On the one hand, we focus on acquiring and then curating / managing lands in the metaverse. So we have a portfolio there with lands in the sandbox, which is our core focus, but also Decentraland, Sonium space, and we're also exploring other opportunities there. And then what we do is we have these lands and the treasury, of course, and then we have a metaverse development working group, which works on actually building sophisticated ecosystems on top of these lands. For instance, we recently acquired during the Snoopverse sale in the sandbox a land next to Snoop Dogg's land there, where we'll build kind of like a West Coast hub, so to say, for culture, for artists, for instance, and but there's also other lands that we will build, for instance, where we'll have like a South Korea hub for the community there, a Japan hub for the community that we have in Japan, as well as some other GameFi applications that we will have on top of these lands. And obviously then through this, there's revenue generated for the DAO. And we also are integrating the MGH token into this, where then this revenue that is generated on top of these lands goes back to the treasury, where we will then trigger, buyback burn mechanisms to have a deflationary, let's say, mechanism in place for the MGH token as well as just directly integrating the token generally into these processes. And on the other hand, we focus on the dataverse metaverse convergence generally by creating dApps. I wouldn't say, let's say like this, the metaverse dataverse convergence is one core pillar, but generally we want to create dApps for the metaverse, because personally I really believe that the killer application for dApps in the metaverse is not, let's say, when, for instance, you have a lot of friction, and let's say, for instance, a community in the metaverse, a DAO in the metaverse is managing itself through Aragon, which is fine. Aragon is what everyone uses, and it's a good platform. But at the same time, it causes friction, because you have on the one hand this Aragon platform, and on the other hand you have the player in the metaverse and the community engaging with each other. And the same way that in the real world you pull out your phone, right, and you, so to say, navigate through it potentially with, let's say, Google Maps or whatever, or other apps, the same way I see it, in the long run, where you will have these dApps where you kind of, walk around with your metaverse character, and then you, I don't know, through your metaverse phone or device, whatever it may be, you have these different dApps that you can, engage with, that help you to navigate through it and so to say, manage your experience within the metaverse. And here we're creating various different applications. The first application is a valuation tool for land valuations, right? As when we started MGH, we really saw the necessity to have more price transparency when it comes to this, because generally, right, if you differentiate between NFTs, there's on the one hand the culture NFTs, right, where it's a bit difficult to evaluate, in my opinion. But on the other hand, you have the more financialized NFTs, such as lands, right, where it's a bit easier. So for instance, one metric that we use to define the respective or the fair valuation is what is the past pricing of, for instance, neighboring countries around the land and stuff like this, to really have like a fair evaluation in place. And we also have neural networks that are continuously trained and are enhancing themselves to actually have a better, let's say, estimation. And so there we really push the dataverse metaverse convergence, where we have developed the algorithm which we use for the evaluation tool, and we then also extract data sets which we subsequently then also sell on the Ocean Protocols marketplace, right? Which then again will further generate revenue for the DAO, and then further trigger these buyback burn mechanisms also with the token. And apart from this, you also are running a Chainlink node where people can access this node, and thereby accessing the data, of course, to have on-chain valuations, as currently we are also engaging with NFT marketplaces, so they can, through an API, utilize the algorithm's data. And there's a couple of other dApps which we are currently, let's say, on the one hand exploring, on the other hand already developing. For instance, the Metaverse development team has started to develop an editor, for instance, for Decentraland, right? Because in the sandbox, you have the game maker, which is making it very intuitive to build stuff at the end of the day. The team, which is mostly coming from the University of Aachen, Germany, kind of saw the necessity, the need to have a more intuitive tool as well in Decentraland, right? So that's something we're exploring, as well as other dApps in the future. We will then have some subscription-based models in place, thereby also then having, the utility token of the DAO integrated into these processes as well, again, to really have like a holistic ecosystem of value exchange, and also to really just make the metaverse experience easier on the one hand for bigger players, right? When it comes to the data tools, for instance, but on the same time for the users itself, right? To kind of have like a booking.com/Bloomberg, depending on who you speak with, right? Whether you speak with an NFT marketplace or you speak with the, let's say, play to earn users, for instance, that will help them to really have a more enhanced, a more transparent and fair experience within their open metaverse path. And oh, sorry, DAC. Now I went on for a long time. DAC, in a nutshell, is just a bit more in the background, which kind of stems that the core team of MetaGameHub DAO came together and said, hey, look, why don't we, let's say, utilize our experience to help also other projects since we do have a large network on one hand in the crypto space, but also in the, let's say, more traditional environment, especially in Germany, with our connections, for instance, which are ranging from the corporates, but also to universities. We also, for instance, Professor Philipp Sandner from the Frankfurt School Blockchain Center, which we utilize also for advice, and also, I mean, it's a great opportunity also to educate these students, whether it's this school in Frankfurt or the university in Aachen, and other universities that we engage with to really foster the education there. And yeah, we came up with the idea of just creating like an incubator kind of to really facilitate and decentralization, and also push projects forward that align with our vision on that regard.
Yeah, thank you, Nico, for the information around these two amazing organizations, because we can't really define the status of a DAO at the moment. I'm pretty curious, with all the data you have, what's your current overview of the state of art of the NFT market? Can you actually do a rational decision making based on like historical data and current market data of NFT? Sometimes, like you mentioned, the pain point of the current industry is like inaccurate valuation, and sometimes it's quite emotionally driven behavior, right? So can you rationalize? And as a non-NFT DJing person, how can this person participate in your DAO and then learn about it? And can they just based on your data do a clear voting decision?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, right? I mean, the industry is very, early, and like basically there's still a lot of challenges to surmount, of course. When it comes to the NFT industry, like I said in the beginning, right, I see kind of two angles, right? And especially in the long run, right now it's still a bit mixed, but in the long run I do see two angles, right? The more financialized NFTs, which are then easier to evaluate, right? And on the other hand, the more cultural NFTs, which are art at the end of the day, right? And of course, art can be appraised, but it is much more individual. And of course, at some point, maybe when we have artificial general intelligence, who knows, then we can probably easily appraise this as well, and without having to run to an appraiser when it comes to art, or appraising it, so to say, by listing it based on your emotional value that you attach to it on an NFT marketplace. But this is obviously very difficult, and therefore, unlike, let's say, maybe other projects that also focus on let's say the valuation aspect, we really wanted to have that niche approach with lands, right? So we can really focus and train the algorithm based on the lands, because land is that niche that we want to focus on. It also aligns with the other part, right, in regards to acquiring and managing lands, of course. So it's a lower hanging fruit at the end of the day. And it came up more like as a need, right? We really just started with, let's build a portfolio of land, so to say, and curate them. But then we really saw, if as a DAO, it's difficult to just, let's say, have a transparent module in place, and let's say collaboratively raising funds, for instance, to really then utilize it in regards to these prices and in regards to these NFTs. And when it comes to the NFT market, I feel like that lands are that niche when it comes to the financialized NFTs, as well as, let's say, in-game assets, also metaverse assets in that sense, right? Which are a bit easier because they're, let's say, potentially a bit more similar to each other than other NFTs, and at least not as emotionally driven, right? I mean, because it's at the end of the day real estate. Of course, there's always an emotional value, even in traditional real estate, that you attach to a certain property, but at the same time, it is a bit more standardized. And by also engaging with the respective metaverse projects, you really, let's say, obtained a lot of valuable information as well to enhance the algorithm further. And when it comes to the last point in regards to how to, let's say, engage with the DAO, I would suggest, I mean, there's different angles, of course. First of all, getting in touch with us is always a good thing, whether it's on Discord or Telegram. Us from the core team, we're very active there, and you can just maybe not send us a DM, because there's just, as you know, too many DMs, and it's very hard to sort out. But just go to the official channels, let us know what your let's say, angle is, and how you would want to contribute to the DAO. And then we can jump on a call and explore it, or something like this. And also what we have is working groups, right? So if someone is really interested in regards to contributing to the DAO, then I would definitely suggest to be part of the working groups. You can fill out the application form on our landing page, and then basically the DAO as a community, let's say, votes on these applications periodically, to, so to say, accept the members to the working groups. Of course, anyone can participate anyway. And also we do our governance on snapshots. So anyone is invited to just do a snapshot there in any regard. So it's open on that side. When it comes to the working groups, we have, for instance, the operations working group, which is focusing on the general operations within DAO, where, for instance, myself, I'm also a part of, and also some of the other co-founders. Then we have the legal working group, which we are gradually setting up, because I feel like, as you also mentioned, right, there's a lot of unclarity still, especially from the side when it comes to DAOs. And through my regulatory deep dive, I had the, let's say, so to say, blessing to yeah, let's say, get to know a lot of the lawyers in this space. And I mean, it's a challenging part, right? And I would say there's, let's say, I don't want to generalize, but personally, I see there's kind of two types of lawyers in the space: the ones that scare you, and the ones that protect you. The ones that scare you are the ones that are usually going to charge you a lot, and you're going to just have a lot of friction and not many results. And the ones that protect you are those that understand the space a bit more, that have been in it, maybe also only from the legal side, as an investor, as a contributor, whatever it may be. And then basically it's all about liability at the end of the day, right? And when it comes to DAOs, just to take a slight deep dive in that regard, I see two types of DAOs: the ones that are, at the end of the day, digital legal entities, right? Where you have one entity that is the DAO at the end of the day, which to me is not really a DAO. It's more of a digital legal entity with a more decentralized and transparent governance and operations, which kind of goes back to also what we are doing with Amazing Blocks, with the equity tokens and stuff like this, which is fine. But again, I don't really see this as a DAO. And then you have the fully decentralized DAOs, right, where entities can be contributors to these DAOs, but they do not fulfill a central role, right? And I think that's also really where the industry is headed. I mean, of course, I'm not a lawyer, so don't take me by the word, but generally I do see, especially with the toughening regulations, that when it comes to this, then you're either decentralized or you have to be fully regulated, right? And that's where it's headed. And with the legal working group, to go back to this, we really want to foster the education around these topics, and also then help other DAOs potentially to have the right setup in place. We also have the Metaverse development working group, where we have a team of game designers headed by let's say Christian Werner. He's a lecturer at the University of Aachen, Germany. He's got tremendous experience in game design over the past 15 years. And like, he's basically, together with a team of students, really, they are metaverse developers, and they've also are working on the Decentraland editor that I mentioned before, right? So really happy to have them in our ecosystem. And then we have the tech working group, of course, where all the back end, front end stuff is done. We have the data working group, right? Where we have some data scientists, and generally also any people just interested in data as well, to push this further and also think about different modules and metrics to enhance the algorithm. So, and then we have the awareness/marketing working group, right? Where we have a couple of people on the one hand focusing on community PR, where we have especially Nova Lorraine. She's a rather famous fashion and designer from New York, that we work with, and she's a very active contributor to the DAO. As well as, for instance, guys like Peter Rafelson, who's coming more from the Hollywood side, understands, let's say how to really foster mass adoption. It's not my cup of tea, the music that he produces. So Peter, don't be mad at me, but he, for instance, wrote and produced the song "Open Your Heart" by Madonna. So he does understand how to make, let's say, products mainstream and also other aspects. And then we have also the executional side when it comes to the social media part. So the awareness/marketing working group is really a core part as well, because I really think we're at the stage in the crypto economy where it's not really anymore about, how do I put this? It's not about, let's say, anymore. Let me rephrase it. We're past the stage of just building tools, right? Because there's a lot of tools there, and a lot of projects just copy paste tools, right? Of course, tools that will always be the essential part, but it's not about just building tools for crypto nerds like me, right? It's more about building tools that actually facilitate mass adoption now, right? And here, of course, the branding and the marketing is also a core pillar, and therefore we also do focus on that a lot with our endeavors, to really also educate, right? Because to me, the metaverse is really like one of the killer applications for crypto mainstream adoption, right? Because at the end of the day, when we look at the metaverse, even a 5-year-old kid can conduct crypto transactions without even having to understand anything about crypto, because let's say they acquire an in-game asset, whether it's a piece of clothing, a weapon, or whatever it may be, that's then an NFT, and they don't have to understand it, right? What an NFT is. And if you really listen to the, let's say, builders that want to really grow and don't just want to pump and dump, then they're all pretty much aligned, that, we will have crypto mass adoption when no one's even talking about crypto that much anymore. And here, the metaverse, I think, is really one of the killer applications that can facilitate that. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for sharing the insights around the MetaGameHub DAO. Around your current stage of development and your roadmap, I have a question, because I saw that you are currently maybe focusing on NFT curating in the metaverse. So can you walk us through the process of curating, especially with your community, the NFTs? You have the whole collection on OpenSea, right? And the second question is, like, after the curation part, in the roadmap of MetaGameHub, you also mentioned there will be NFT pool MVP this year, maybe, right? So what is upcoming this year for Meta?
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to the different angles, right, of the NFT, with the NFT creation, here the core focus really is right now the lands, right, and in-game assets. So here it's really about the collaborative governance of these lands, that anyone that's interested right now, that's obviously primarily the Metaverse Development Working Group, can make a proposal on Snapshot in regard to how is the MetaGameHub DAO owned land utilized and what is being built on top of it. And every member then in the future will have access to, utilize these ecosystems, right, that we build on top of that, and collaboratively decide what is being built. And then we will have two approaches. On the one hand, right, the ecosystems that are decided by the community that we build, for instance, like what we're building on the Snoop Dogg land, right, or also the South Korea hub, which is currently being prepared, as well as a MetaGameHub hub, so to say, on our biggest sandbox land, the 3x3 estate. And then at the same time, we will also have lands that is just open to anyone to build that's a member of the DAO, where we will then, so to say, verify the DAO members' addresses so they can just utilize the land as they please, right? So we will have like something for everyone in that sense. And in the future, and that's probably the NFT collection on OpenSea that you're referring to, we also want to, let's say, work more closely also with further artists, right? For instance, Jean, she's one of our co-founders. She's an artist in the music industry, quite known, especially in Ghana and generally the Afrobeat industry. So we really want to also push artists forward to really engage with the metaverse. That's something though that you want to step by step push in the future, because right now it's really about building the core infrastructure first. And then what's ahead in 2022, right? A lot, right? So basically a couple of things here. You were already correctly mentioning the NFT pools, which at the end of the day is just something that we came up with because we thought, look, I mean, if you own an NFT, for instance, a land, right? Other than holding it in your wallet and building something on the land, right? Back when we came up with the idea, there was not much utility that you could have further with it. And there again, we want to, of course, focus initially more on the land aspect where, then you can, let's say, collateralize your NFT, kind of then pushing the MetaFi topic, the convergence of DeFi and the metaverse. And then basically the NFT is, so to say, in that pool, right? And then it's collaboratively governed by the people collateralizing that all the lands, for instance, are collaboratively governed then by the pool stakers. And of course, anytime you can pull it out if you want to, and then it's gone. But it then again generates also some revenue for you when it comes to, like, it's kind of like a staking process, right? Where you then also generate revenue, you're incentivized for this. While at the same time, of course, then you basically not only receive the MGH token as an incentivization, but you also provide then value, right? And in turn to the DAO, because you collateralize your NFT and then it's staked in the pool. But unlike other NFT pools, you always have the chance to, take out to decollateralize that specific NFT that you initially staked. And then from the other perspective, right, you have on the one hand the NFT/land owners that can utilize this tool, but on the other hand, you also have the users, which sometimes, in my opinion, are forgotten a bit, especially throughout the current metaverse hype, because, there's, in my opinion, a lot of still centralization within the metaverse, right? I generally do like the term open metaverse anyway a bit more, but it shows like how broad it is, right? And there's not one metaverse to rule them all at the end of the day. But yeah, generally the metaverse is still very central or fairly centralized, I would say. Others would maybe argue against it, but in my opinion it is, because if you look at the land ownership, of course there's a lot of land owners on the one hand, but at the same time, if you look at the prices for lands, there's like let's say an elite let's say there that really has access to this land. And that's where we also want to come in, not only from the tool perspective, but also from of course the decentralized governance of lands, of the portfolio of lands that we have. But going back to the NFT pools, right, the users can then in the future basically acquire NFT pool tokens, which basically are like an index, right? That so to say tracks. It's like a synthetic token in that sense that tracks the value basically. And then even, let's say, someone that only quote unquote has $100 to invest right now can participate at least in this industry. And that's something that we really want to facilitate and push forward. Other aspects for 2022 are, on the one hand, an IP NFT that we want to launch officially here. Shout out also to the guys, for instance, from Vita DAO, how they did it with their biopharma NFT for IP longevity research, right? So we want to apply a similar module. Also when it comes to the data tools, here we're working with for instance, one of our advisors, Bian, who I really must say he's to me one of the best guys to work with when it comes to legal side, because he's one of those lawyers that really understands the industry. He's for instance worked with Coinbase and their license for the BaFin in Germany on the one hand, but at the same time he's someone that really always wants to facilitate the degree of decentralization. Other aspects to come in 2022 are, for instance, the volume 2, so to say, of our valuation tool, where we'll then have subscription-based models, because right now everyone can try it out for free. But in the future, we will have subscription-based models in place with different tiers, where then the MGH token, so to say, will again find its utility within that ecosystem. Then we will further, of course, continuously enhance the algorithm. We will expand, of course. Right now, the tool is focused on the sandbox. We also have data sets for Decentraland, which we will integrate into the tool with the volume 2. And then we are gradually also expanding to other metaverses, right? Like Sonium Space, like Axie, like BitCountry, and so on, which we have on our mind. And recently also with the fluff world hype, this is also something that we're diving into a bit more. And yeah, so we really also want to foster this metaverse agnostic approach, right? Because that really is the core vision also of the let's say, how do I put it, the open metaverse at the end of the day, right? To be metaverse agnostic and to have that interoperability approach, right? Other aspects that we want to focus on is, of course, further pushing play to earn on top of these lands, populating, curating the lands that we own, making further potentially land acquisitions across different metaverses. Yeah, that's kind of, let's say, in a nutshell, some of the core aspects that we want to focus on. Of course, there's a lot of more detail, and if anyone is interested in finding out more, then just feel free to reach out to us, and we can definitely update you a bit further on that regard. And we also regularly, let's say, post, and then if the community approves, execute roadmaps, like, for instance, our short-term roadmap that we posted 2 months ago, around about, where we then always transparently show, okay, what are the next steps and what are kind of the timelines for these aspects. As you know, with development, it's always hard to give an exact date, of course, but we do try to definitely stick to these aspects.
Yeah. Regarding that, I also have a question around the community. In your current community, or let's say DAO members or contributors, what are the profile? Are they people who are already familiar with crypto and DeFi, especially? I saw also on your roadmap, you want to build a easy to use user interface for NFT. For onboarding maybe the next wave of NFT holders. It's of course about convincing them about the idea of NFT, but it's also about the interface. What do you think about it, and what's your plan about it?
I would say that generally, when it comes to our community and our team, so to say, of contributors, we are very diversified, or diverse in general, right? I mean, we have people in Latam, right? Colombia, especially, where a lot of the developers are, since one of our co-founders, Camilo, is also from Colombia, right? So these are the smartest people in the room, way smarter than me, developing the algorithms and everything. Then we have, for instance, a strong presence also in Argentina through our advisors like Johnny and Fefe, right? Who are really proactively pushing MGH there. They're also, let's say, working closely with, for instance, David Orban, who, for those that know, it was the first guy to own ETH in the sale back then. Then we have also in Africa a strong presence, especially in Nigeria and Ghana. For instance, one of our community moderators, he's from Nigeria. As I mentioned before, Jean, our co-founder, she's from Ghana. So we definitely also want to explore these markets further, because there is say a lot of young generations where these tools and the metaverse really can is that equal opportunity to attain wealth and to not be, let's say, overlooked by centralized players, which has been the case with Web2. Then we have members, especially in Japan, right, which have been basically supporting us for day one. So the Japanese community, so shout out to them. Definitely, they're one of the strongest communities, and we have a line group with around 1,000 members there. Then we also have currently are accelerating the exposure in South Korea, where Max Tseng is. He's I've worked with him also, for instance, with Amazing Blocks. He's a great guy, and right now building gradually the community there. And of course, we do also have the presence in the US with guys like Peter as well as Nova. From the awareness side, who are both pushing MGH forward in the US, but you do know in the US you always have to be a bit more careful, but it's a strong market. So right, we want to be market agnostic, not only metaverse agnostic, of course. And from the core team, we are based around Europe mainly right now. We've kind of started this trend where we have like we call it the hustle house, right? And right now the hustle house is in Portugal. So for instance, Camilo, Phil, Lucas, and so on, the guys are right now there. I'm there every couple of weeks, basically, where, you know, we just have a house to kind of work together, and yeah, to really just have a narrow focus on the project and building it. And there, my dog Lamar is kind of our mascot in that sense. We will actually also launch a play to earn, a basic play to earn game that's called the Lamacito game, which kind of started organically by me always chasing him while he was stealing stuff in the house in Portugal, right? And I was always like aus, which means like stop in German, which you say to your dog. And we want to have like a little game where, you know, you play Lamar, right, or Lamacito in that sense, and like you have to collect items, and then basically I'm running after you and I'm trying to catch you. So yeah, we really, let's say, would have like, we're like a little family in that sense, you know, from the core contributors. When it comes to the advisors, right, we also have some guys that are very well connected, not only in the crypto space, but also in the corporate world. So for instance, like guys like Harald, who is part of the research working group, which I forgot to mention before. We also have a research working group, right? Basically, where we want to further foster the education when it comes to metaverses, and also like analyzing metaverses in a neutral environment, right, where we also again work together with the university in Aachen, and basically here and their courses there, we really want to push the research part further. And going back to Harald, for instance, he has like been like for the past 25 years or something like this, a consultant, working with the likes of BMW and so on, right? So basically, like, I would say also in the corporate world, we do have a strong network that we can utilize in the future. So on that regard, right, really when it comes to the community, I'd say we are very diverse, right? We have the crypto experts, we have, you know, let's say go-to-market awareness, mass adoption experts, we have tech experts, of course, which is the core pillar. We have data experts, and yeah, like so there we really, in my opinion, I'm very proud to say that we do have like a very, very strong community. And when it comes to the, let's say, community that's, let's say, a bit maybe less involved in the daily operations, I would say it's again also mixed, because the same way that, like, you know, these different core contributors are catalysts for the growth, the same way they also then onboard respective players. So this kind of then again, you know, yeah, is portrayed as well in the community itself, where we have really different angles, right? We have people coming from our, let's say, yeah, work with the Ocean Protocol side, from the data aspect. We have again also people coming which are not necessarily crypto experts, right, but trying to explore it and find it interesting. We do have the crypto guys, of course, right? And yeah, so on that regard, I would say this is one of our strongest parts, I would say, the core community in that sense, because yeah, I mean, in my opinion, that's really what it needs to sustainably push also a project further, and not be like a pump and dump thing that dies with the next yeah, bear market or so.
Well, that's another topic, the bear market. I think bear market is a good time to build things as well.
Exactly.
We can stay calm and really doing something tangible. And I'm really happy for all the development. And as Metaverse Summit, our goal is also to educate, to inform, to launch the discussion between people, and also in the end to build something, right? So definitely looking forward to having maybe your whole team in Paris house here in Paris, chasing each other near the Seine River and Tour Eiffel. So
I will definitely bring my dog to Paris. Yeah, I will.
Yes, in 16th to 17th of July in Paris. Looking forward to seeing you in person in the Metaverse Summit in real life as well.
Likewise.
Yeah, thank you. And please keep our community also updated of all the news and the development in 2022 because everything's moving so fast, especially your roadmap is really enriched, and looking forward to having you from time to time.
Likewise, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for the great questions, and yeah, looking forward to the conference in July. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicolas.